Hello, everyone. My name is Margaret Keane, and I am the Education Training and Development Officer here at Mid West ARIES. I'm delighted to have you here with us this afternoon for what is a pretty grey and dull afternoon here in the Midwest of Ireland. But look, isn't it great that we're here and we're going to talk about connection just in a moment. I'm going to just stop sharing my screen there so I can see everybody. Um, yeah, so what are we going to do today? Well, we're going to look at, and this is the very first webinar in our CHIME series. And for anybody who doesn't know what CHIME is a framework developed by Mary Leamy and Mike Slade in 2011, where they looked at a huge number of personal stories or personal narratives on personal recovery and mental health. And what came out of that were 5 key processes or ingredients, if you like, into what personal recovery looked like. So one was connection. So there's that's your C of CHIME. H for hope, I for identity, M for meaning and purpose, and finally E for empowerment. So over the next few webinars, we're going to be looking at CHIME in detail. And today, of course, we're looking at connection, that all important piece when it comes to mental health. But before we do that, let me go through a little bit of housekeeping. As you know, we're here for an hour. But what we'd love to do, and we'd like to do this in all of our webinars, is get our attendees, our participants involved right from the get-go. So if there are questions or reflections that you want to share with the panel, I'll be taking those, by the way, and I'll do my best to field as many as I can. Just go at the bottom of your screen, there should be a Q&A button. You could open that, type in your question or reflection, and our panelists will get to see them. I'll introduce our panelists in a moment, but just to give you a little bit of context about, I suppose, why we're doing the CHIME series. Firstly, I think, and I think all of the panel would agree, it's such a simple but accessible idea or framework around personal recovery. So we look at, and obviously we're the recovery education service here in the Midwest, we focus our workshops on personal recovery rather than clinical recovery, although the two can work in tandem together. We do that very successfully in both our community workshops, in the HSE day centres, and more importantly in the acute psychiatric units in both Ennis and Limerick, and we're in both units there twice a week, in both Limerick and Ennis. So yeah, it's a really accessible piece, and I think it gives a real understanding about what personal recovery can look like. But I think it's really interesting that we're launching this CHIME series today, because I only discovered this recently, but last month the World Health Organization published their landmark report, From Loneliness to Social Connection, Charting a Path to Healthier Societies. And basically what it does is it's stating that social isolation and loneliness are widespread. So globally across the world, and this makes for serious impacts on health, well-being, and society in general. So in other words, it's a major public health issue that needs and requires immediate action. I'm just going to share a quote with you because I think it's really interesting. So this is a critical moment and we cannot afford to wait. Social disconnection affects people of all ages and all backgrounds in every region. From mental health issues such as depression and anxiety to physical conditions such as heart disease and stroke to early death, the impact of loneliness is profound. Yet it is often overlooked despite being just as damaging as other well-known public health risks. So it's that important. So this conversation is very timely, and it's important that we're looking at that whole idea of social connection, what it means, how we can improve it. And yeah, and I think we have the right panel to discuss this. So I'm going to actually ask the panel if they would to turn on their videos so we can see you all. Lovely to see you. Hi, Laura and Mike and Sylvia, Noelle and Rosemary. I'm going to introduce them now, and then I'm going to put the first question to everybody so you get to hear everybody's voice in the room. And I'm my first, and I suppose Mike has been to every single webinar. He is our great leader here at Mid West ARIES, Mike O'Neill, the manager here at Mid West ARIES. And Mike, if I've forgotten anything, please do chime in, and apologies for the pun. And then we have Rosemary Ryan, who is the, again, HSE Area Lead Mental Health Engagement. Great to have you, Rosemary. And I'm really excited to have Rosemary here because, again, she has lots of different initiatives that will help anybody who's basically trying to find ways of, getting out there and getting involved with groups in a really, really gentle and accessible way. So thanks to Rosemary for being here. But delighted to also have our team at Mid West ARIES. We love them all, our facilitators. They do an amazing job delivering recovery education right across the Midwest region. So that is Limerick, North Tipperary and Clare, but also online as well. And I'm sure some of you have found us there before. And today we have Noelle Tanner. We've got Sylvia Kiely, and last but by no means least, the lovely Laura Carey, and delighted to have all of you here. So let's start, what we always do, with a brief round of introductions. So I'm going to make it easy on the rest, Mike, by starting with you. So I'll literally come round as I see you on the screen. So again, just a little bit about your role, and let's just start the conversation around connectedness. And again, nice relaxed conversation. What does that term connection or connectedness mean to you? And you can answer it from a personal perspective or professional basis. So Mike, over to you.
Yeah, thanks, Margaret. Yeah, my name is Mike O'Neill. I'm the manager of the Recovery Education Service here in the Midwest. And I suppose when we look at the CHIME framework, it's all about personal recovery. And when we get personal, I think we look at feelings, So sometimes when you talk about connection, well, I feel connected or I feel disconnected. And yeah, and that's probably the bit I'll stay with here for today, just focusing on the feelings. Yeah, thank you.
Brilliant, Mike. And it all comes down to, it does come down to the feelings. Noelle, I'll come to you next. So do you want to say hello? Just maybe a little bit about your role as a facilitator. And again, what that term means to you, connection, connectedness. Oh, you just need to unmute yourself there.
Sorry. No, I hit both buttons. I'm Noelle and I'm a recovery education facilitator with Mid West ARIES. And I suppose connectiveness is really important. And in our work, it comes up a lot in no matter what workshop we're doing, it all comes down to connectiveness, really, and how people are feeling about it. And I suppose for me, connectiveness, what I've learned through my life is the most important thing is to connect with myself, first of all, to learn about that, because that helps me then with connection with everything that's around me. And it gives me that sense of belonging. And it also helps me to, I suppose it's what keeps me well is checking in with myself with connectiveness. Am I connecting? And you had even said it beforehand, Margaret, sometimes we can be with loads of people but feel really disconnected in that moment. So I think it's checking in with yourself, and connectiveness helps you feel that, because connectiveness is about living. It's every moment of every day we're practicing connectiveness, from connecting to the cup of tea we make, connecting to the bed we make, connecting to everything we do is connectedness. So I think it's a really important one in our lives to keep as well.
Thanks, Noam. What I'm hearing is that I love the idea of belonging. And again, that links to what Mike said in terms of the feelings, but also that self-awareness and really, again, connecting. I think sometimes we're thinking of a social connection, but is that piece of being present with yourself and connecting with yourself in the moment? So thanks for that, Noah. That's brilliant. And again, just in terms of anybody listening there, if you want to share what your thoughts are on that word, what does it mean to you? Please put it into the Q&A section. Rosemary, I'll come to you next.
Hi, so my role in mental health engagement is really the connections that I make allow me to do my job. So I would be involved with people who use the service and their supporters, and also the staff and management, that deliver mental health services. And the role is really about ensuring that people's views and their experience within the service informs any new developments or improvements to the service. So it's very varied. And I suppose the thing that connection evokes for me is about a network, so a linked network. So we have ourselves. I really like Noelle's piece about connecting with yourselves, because that is the true base. But I think of the connectedness as being part of the network we're involved in. So when you're in a network, you get a lot from it, and you always get something you're giving as well by being part of a network. So I think of network and links, but I really like the connecting with yourself a bit as well, as a starting point. And I'd love to talk about a couple of initiatives that really, the whole foundation was around need for connection. So maybe we'll speak later on that.
We will indeed, Rosemary, and I'm excited about that because I think that will give people an idea of, you know, next steps around that. And yeah, networks, love that idea, and it's the networks we create and how can we create those. And so, Sylvia, again, just a quick hi, introduce yourself, and then just what does that term mean to you?
Thanks, Margaret. Good afternoon. I'm Sylvia, a recovery education facilitator with Mid West ARIES since 2022. And I'm going to come at it from a personal place as well. For me, it is about that relationship with self. That's the most important relationship I have. And that's what connectedness is. And then with others, it's not about having, I suppose, surface level socializing relationships. Like Mike was saying, it is that felt sense. So that felt sense of being with another, of being seen with another and accepted with another. And then yeah, that goes like across the board through the good times and through the challenging times. And then I suppose in the professional space, then it is all about connection. And that's what drives the work. And for me, it's always about meeting people where they're at. And that's the truth, is the connection in the professional space as well.
And thanks, Sylvia. And that definitely speaks to what it's the values piece of Mid West ARIES, beyond the mission, and that is meeting people where they're at. And thanks for bringing that up. And I love that again. That felt sense again. We're going back to those feelings. Laura, again, do you want to say hi and introduce yourself and connection? What does it mean to you?
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm a recovery education facilitator with Mid West ARIES. And when I think of connection, the first thing that comes to mind is self-connection. So connection to myself, and just being in tune with what's going on inside of me. And I think when I'm more in tune with myself, I can be more at peace, or if I'm in more at peace with myself, I can be better in my personal and my work life. Because we go in and out of acute units, and it's a big thing in our workshops as well, and our acute units, that connection piece. So I feel that if I'm connected to myself, and at peace in myself, I'm much better able to connect with others and bring myself, I suppose, 100%, as I like to do. Yeah, so that's connectedness for me.
And thanks, Laura. And I think what's really interesting about, again, we kind of start from the social connection piece, but I suppose what everybody's kind of saying is you kind of have to connect with yourself almost first, and have that being present in that moment. And, you know, I love that, Laura, being in tune with yourself. And again, it goes back to that self-awareness, which we know actually a lot of this comes up in our own workshops, because we do run workshops on connection, both in the acute unit and on the community and online as well. So yeah, lovely variety, but also similar in terms of the response. So I suppose I mentioned the World Health Organization piece there, that report on loneliness, isolation, disconnection, as Mike was saying. So and that and them identifying it as a real public health issue. So how do you think, you know, feeling connected to others now can help protect us from stress and support our sense of self and well-being? So what is it specifically about connection, do you think, that's so important for our mental health? Who'd like to come in on that first?
Yeah, sure. I'll jump in. Yeah, I suppose connecting with others, and I suppose as we're having the conversation here, I'm looking at, I suppose, we need to be careful to not automatically assume that if I'm not connected with somebody, to something wrong. You know that, like, there's a, when you know, I know in the introduction you mentioned being, you know, loneliness and the epidemic of that, you know, but you could be surrounded by people. But as Laura and Sylvia saying, but like, I feel okay and I'm very comfortable in my own skin, you know, and I think it's probably more when we're struggling, you know, or feeling anxious or feeling unwell and coming back to the feelings that we may need to connect with others to maybe resource ourselves, re-energize, feel safe, um, you know, just to be heard, you know. So there's a difference between being alone, you know, which is, you know, you might misinterpret that as being disconnected, you know, but you may be physically comfortable and physically well and connected to other things, and enjoying your own space and your own company. But I think there's something about, um, there's definitely, I think, that strong link between when you're mentally unwell or mentally struggling and disconnecting from people. You know, because you can't cope, I can't function, I'm being overwhelmed, when in the reality is you probably need, that's when you need it most to ground you, you know, a bit of focus, bit of balance, bit of perspective. And even if it's meeting someone for a coffee, it's a bit of respite as well, you know, that can get, you know, that you're even coming away from if there's a bit of distress there as well, that's taking you to that place of disconnection.
And actually,
Yeah.
Mike, just coming in there, because I think you and Dan are on the same page here, because I just got a great question in here from Dan. Is connection a three-way process? So connecting with yourself, with others, and allowing others to connect with you. So it's that openness to others. I just think it's
Yeah.
a really interesting way of
And I think that,
looking at it.
and I think I probably for, and I think to go even further than that, you have to be aware of it. You have to be aware you're unwell, or you have to be aware you're disconnecting, or aware that you're having this impact on others. You know, and sometimes if you're in that place where I am overwhelmed, that you're oblivious to even to the trail of destruction you may be leaving behind you, you know, but you're also disconnecting from your supporters, you know, and that could be friends, it could be family, whatever that looks like, or, you know, community supports. But I think, as I mentioned in the beginning, it does come back to the feeling. So that if you're feeling well, you know, yeah, then it comes back to the first bit, connect with yourself, you know, and that if you're in a good place, it enables you to safely connect in a controlled way, in a safe way with others. Yeah. Yeah.
Absolutely, Mike. And I think that does speak to Dan's point in terms of being the readiness to connect. And I think, Noelle, you wanted to come in there. You had
Yeah,
your hand up there.
I think a really important aspect of connection is trust. I think that, and I suppose with connection, we think connection should be instant, but connection takes time and it takes effort, and not to rush things or to feel it, you know, "Oh, I should have it now, you know, or there's something wrong with me because I don't have it now," because it's not. It's definitely, for me, I think connection is all about the trust, because then when you have that built up and you have that, then the fear is gone, and then you can, you know, you can, as Mike was saying, then you can, it's those, through those challenging times then, that you have that someone to lean, that support around you. You're not asking someone to fix things, but just that, you know, someone might give you a different perspective, or that you just listen to you, which releases the stress from the body and you, and that helps you. And again, it comes back to that sense of belonging. Oh, someone heard me, someone is listening to me, someone validating how I'm feeling. And that then leads on to building your confidence, building your self-esteem, all those positive things that we do lack a lot. All of us do, you know, even though we mightn't show it, but, you know, we do have that. But I think it comes from trust, and that takes time to build, and it takes time to, and puts in an effort to put in both ways. So, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so important, isn't it? Trust, boundaries, all those things are taking place all at the one time. And I know, Rosemary, you want to come in on this. And again, leaning into that, why is it important?
Do you know, it just, sorry, put down my hand. There are real things happening because we're social beings that, with connecting, brain chemicals are actually in the background happening. So oxytocin, or their love chemical, it's released when we connect with others, especially when it's supportive and or maybe overshared activities, because when you're doing something that you enjoy, that releases endorphins. So sometimes the connecting with others might be for, you know, whatever the interest is. It doesn't matter what it is, but if something you enjoy, that has a real effect for you. And then laughter as well, which, you know, that can often be a part of, you know, it's when you have nice connections, and laughter is involved, so serotonin release that decreases anxiety. So there's very real things happening that you can feel, and it's based around the connections that you've made. So loads of reasons that's really well studied as well. So it's great to have evidence behind why connection is important.
Absolutely. And thanks for bringing up just a few of those things, Rosemary. I think what's really interesting in that WHO report is, you know, it's not just the mental health that's being affected, it's your physical health. And it is a physical response to being with somebody. And that can have a negative effect as well. There are people in our lives, I'm sure, maybe aren't great for our well-being, but we can go into that in a moment. I'm going to just come to the barriers piece because I think it's really important, and I want to give a little bit of time on this. And if you don't mind, Sylvia, I might come to you on that first. So just again, from your experience, because I know we have delivered numerous, well, you guys have in terms of facilitation, workshops, both in acute units and the community around connection. What are the main barriers have you seen that people have reported around engaging with others?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose from the workshops within the acute unit, a lot of what comes back is again the feelings. There can be this feeling of an internalized shame and a self-stigma that is a preventative barrier. And people often feel, I'll be judged. To reach out and make connections. There's that fear of judgment, and the fear of being looked at that, you know, they're not different or not, or not worthy to share and take up space with another person. So there's a lot of that is present. And I think another one is that there can be a level, I suppose, of an emotional withdrawal and a physical withdrawal amongst people as well, that comes. They're kind of the strongest ones. But then when you look at, like, we have brought connection and coffee, or coffee and connection, coffee and connection into the acute units now physically, and it is that felt sense. You can feel it when people are safe in that environment. They come to life. You can feel their passion to connect and to just be and to just
And
enjoy
can
the
you
moment.
explain, Sylvia, what coffee
Yeah.
and connection is for people listening or viewing? Because it's it's an amazing thing that's developed over the last few years, came out of COVID, as you said, now is in the units and in the day centers as well. But just give us a little bit of information of what that actually is. What does it look like? And yeah, what are the benefits for people
Yeah,
attending
yeah,
it?
perfect. Yeah. Well, like our other workshops, it is relaxed. It's very informal. And people are coming and, they're invited to share, if they want to share even any of anything like their creative gifts, their expressions. It could be if they're into art, if they're into writing, if they sing, it's just that space to allow their strengths to shine. Um, and like that, there will be the coffee, the biscuits, just to be there as well. A lot of singing. For example, we had a coffee connection there last week in the acute unit in 5B. There was a lot of dancing as well. So it is that, and like that, talking is great, and getting to share, people, their stories, their voices, and where they are. But sometimes you just don't need words in connection. And that's the space where that really shines through as well for people. Yeah.
I
So it's
think
great to
people
be bringing it now in the
Absolutely. And I
session.
think people might be a little bit surprised to hear dancing in 5B, but that's when you get people together sharing their in a creative space and bringing
Mm,
some joy.
hmm
And as you said, in
And
terms
it
of the stigma
breaks,
piece,
yeah, sorry, Margaret, yeah, but it breaks down, I suppose, that barrier as well, that, they might have a feeling of a lack of psychological safety
yeah.
sometimes, in the unit. And that's just because the clinical setting, staff may be overworked and building that connection can be hard. So they are the spaces where that safety is present for them. And then, you know, their real kind of authentic selves come out, and what they want to share is welcomed,
Yeah.
you know.
And I think what's and again, for people who don't know what we do in terms of the recovery education piece, in terms of our workshops, we work really closely with the Recovery and Wellbeing program in both Ennis and 5B, two superb programs that really support, really recovery focused, really support the tenets of personal recovery across the CHIME framework. So we're delighted to be part of that and co-facilitate all of our workshops, including Coffee and Connection is co-facilitated by staff members there. So it is, it's our flagship service, as Mike would often say, in the acute units. Thanks, Sylvia, for that. Again, the barriers piece, because it's so important. If you can come with, let's have a look at how you can kind of overcome barriers. But is there anything else there that you think is stopping people? Because let's face it, we're supposed to be the most digitally connected. Rosemary, I'll come to you, but we're supposed to be the most digitally connected right now, and yet there is this feeling of disconnect.
Yeah, I just wanted to say that there is evidence that connecting online, you know, and that might be where you find real specific interest, that also benefits, but there's something about being together in a shared space. And I did find online Coffee and Connection brilliant. I saw the most beautiful artwork that people brought, but I can imagine the crack when there's singing and dancing going on. But I think maybe the barrier maybe sometimes relates to how you feel like you've lost, you know, connections are lost, you know, for many reasons, you know, and it's then difficult to pick up again or to think about rebuilding, but it's so important. And it's just to acknowledge you can be disconnected, and that first step of connecting with yourself and then reaching out to things that might interest you, or groups, or just as simple as walking into the Coffee and Connection group sounds like a lovely place to start. So it's just accepting, you know, where things are and just building on from there. I think that little bit of encouragement, like just making that available for people, and it's with staff and with ARIES facilitators there, you know, just a really nice place to just take a step and, you know, start the rebuilding.
Well, I'm going to put the cat amongst the pigeons here, and I'm going to actually come at it from the other way. Now, Mike O'Neill is smiling already. I think somebody already mentioned it, disconnection. Is that ever valuable, do you think, disconnection? Mike, go for it.
Yeah, I think so, because sometimes you have to go to a place of safety, and sometimes the place of safety is in here. And so you have to disconnect and withdraw. But as long as you're using it as an opportunity to regroup, you know, and get the troops in order, and so you come to a place that's, yeah, where you're able to come back with bite-sized chunks. And I think it is doing stuff, because I suppose again with the recovery education, it's strengths based, you know, and sometimes people can't focus on their strengths, particularly when they're, you know, they're clinically unwell and they're in a hospital. And when we look and say, well, what do you enjoy? You know, so, and on the most basic level where people can disconnect from everything, and I'm leaping sideways, and it's back to that Coffee and Connection. What is actually happening there is the facilitators are modeling connection. And by leading and demonstrating this, and if somebody there either sings a song, shares a poem, you know, now they've been encouraged and feel supported in the space to do something, and they feel good about it. You know, so while you can talk about do this, do that, and look at this, it's a perfect example where you're actually demonstrating that, you know, I can't identify a strength, but I can actually do something I enjoy. And that's what comes across from that. And like, and it really is magical, you know. So if somebody comes away from that, you know, that we, you know, that program when we're running, say, God, I enjoy that and I feel good about that. You've already planted the seed that there's stuff I can do and what's in my control. But yeah, it comes back to being ready. And we often, you know, and I think it is knowing when you're ready, but also knowing when you're disconnected, you know, and And that's really challenging, and probably challenging for family members or your friends or your supporters. People are probably hearing, I can't get through to you, and, stuff like that. You're not taking on board what I'm saying, so there has to be that readiness as well, and agreement, and that can lead to friction and everything. Because as I always say, if I was delivering a workshop out in the future and say, if recovery was easy, we wouldn't be here. So there's nothing easy about this, and it takes time, and I think if your timeline in recovery and getting well and rebuilding those connections is out of step with other people when you are disconnected, because people naturally, want you, come on, hurry up, gee up, I want us to back to where we were, or I want us to be somewhere else, but very often because of the effort, when you're absolutely broken and battered by life, the simplest of connection, connecting with life can be a challenge. I'm hanging in there. I'm hanging on by a thread, and that can be really hard.
And
Yeah.
Mike, actually, we've got one kind of reflection piece and another question that I think kind of speaks to that. And then I think it was Noelle and then Sylvia, but whoever wants to come in after this. But just a reflection here. So again, it speaks to that readiness. Be willing to seek support, and knowing the how-to is important and doesn't come accidentally. Active listening is the imperative here, and it takes practical practice, and it's critical when faced with a frightening chronic life condition. So again, the practical piece and the readiness and the being openness to it. We have a question here. Do you feel that you have to help some people to learn how to build connections, given where people are currently at and their prior life experience, that they may have had a negative effect on them? And this is a discussion we have all the time around trauma in Aries. It's kind of back and forth, and that life history and that lived experience, and absolutely. I don't know if, in terms of Noelle, if you'd like to speak to those, or Sylvia as well, if you want to come in on that. But so do you think that people's, past experience, if they've had a very negative experience in terms of their connections, that has an impact on them and their ability to develop further connections? I hope that's what I'm asking the right question, but if I'm not, please put more information there in the Q&A.
I think definitely, because you're going back to your default, your safe space. We all shrink back to ourselves, and that's where our inner self is, our little safe space, So it is hard when you keep having those, and that's the consequence of a connection, is the negative side of it, because connection isn't always positive, you know what I mean? But I think start with yourself first to build that trust in yourself. Because I think with connection, we don't trust ourselves that we have value, that we can bring something, and that's what we lose. And so there's a fear base around it, and then that brings lack of confidence. And so I think learn to enjoy your own company first, and be okay in your own. I think that's definitely the one thing I've learned as I've gotten older, is being okay on my own and enjoying in my own company. And then anything else is a bonus with that. And I find it's easier to connect then outside of that. But getting back to that, when you're not in a good place, is obviously really, really difficult, because the trust isn't there, the fear is there, so all those maybe negative emotions are coming in. And like you were saying in Coffee and Connection, that really shows a different side, because people, that they do fear connection, and they do have lack of trust of what's around them. But I think if you can lead by the example to show people in a gentle, compassionate way, that just when we're only there for an hour and a half, but I've seen the difference. People said, no, I'm not in a good place, I'm not able to, I'll just sit and watch. And by the end, they've said, oh, that I really feel good. That really has made me feel better today. And that's only doing, I suppose we're showing, just be ourselves, but be our silly selves as well. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be serious. And if you can just do something like sing when you don't have a note in your head, or get up and dance, it encourages others to oh, look at that. It's about the fun piece then as well, and you don't have to be so conscious of it. I think we're too consciously aware of everything we do, and that has a negative impact.
And absolutely, and it's tapping into your joy, whatever that looks like for
Yeah.
you. Thanks, Noelle. That is brilliant. Coffee connection. Wow, I wish we could have one now. It just sounds so good. Sylvia, I know you wanted to come in, so I'm not sure. Was it on the
Yeah.
barriers piece or?
I was going to come in on the disconnection piece, I suppose, following Mike as well, maybe on the purpose as well, where disconnection has that function. Um, and for me, I feel there's a huge difference between isolating yourself from the world, but versus kind of seeking solitude. Because for me personally, seeking solitude is a way to actually come back to strengthening that relationship with myself sometimes. And with the message there in the chat about learning, it is about learning, especially when, negative past experiences, like have been mentioned, have created almost like there's an armor built up and that protective thing. So it does take time. And it takes time to adjust to yourself again and to the world. Um, and also I think was touching on Dan saying about allowing others and, allowing others in, that takes again huge time and discernment. And it is ultimately our choice. What do we allow and what do we disallow? And that comes into the quality of connections as well that we want.
Thanks, Sylvia. And absolutely, that is so important. And again, it's also given choice as well. And you've got the agency is there as well. Laura, we know you in our group as you are the queen of self-care. There's no two ways about it. You are just, it's amazing. What do you think that people can do to kind of overcome those barriers wherever they look like? So is there anything kind of daily habits, or if you want to share the kind of things that you do, no pressure. If you want to, that would be great.
Yeah, yeah, I am the queen of self-care, yeah. But it has a much kind of deeper meaning for me now. Whereas before it's about, going, getting your nails done, stuff like that. But I'm much more attuned to myself now, and it's trying to prioritize myself every day where I can. And it's the small things for me, the small things. So getting to go out for a bit of fresh air, 20 minutes, whatever. Just sitting down on my own, maybe in the house, in a quiet, kind of comfortable space in the house, having that cup of tea, and actually getting to finish the whole cup of tea, and trying to put yourself first where you can, and reminding yourself. And a few people have come in there with being okay on your own. And I think that's so important. That's, as I said earlier, that self-connection and just listening to what you need, both physically, mentally, and being just tuned into yourself. And I think when you do that, you can be so much better in other aspects of your life, be it your personal life or work. And yeah, I think that's just key for me, trying to put yourself first when you can.
And do you think, Laura, that there's pressure on people to be connected or have large social groups, or
massively,
just that's interesting that you're going back to that piece, but be comfortable in your own space. How is that impacting on people, do you think, having that pressure? Is it social media? Is it?
I was just going to say, I think that's social media is, I think it's such a huge pressure on people to be always doing something, being with big groups of people, loads of people, oh, I have, all these followers or whatever. And, it's just, it makes me concerned for the younger people. And that's what they're growing up around. But yeah, it's all about ourselves and connected to ourselves first. That's the first thing.
And that seems to be actually from our discussion today that it does have to start with you.
Yes,
and building up your confidence, and and then kind of being gentle with yourself, and before you're going into these groups. But I want to make sure that I get Rosemary in here, because again, it's that idea of being gentle with yourself and how you actually overcome maybe, you know, the self-stigma we were talking about, Sylvia, earlier, in terms of as a barrier, you know, valuing yourself, as Noelle said. Where can we find those comfortable spaces if you want to, you know, just improve your social connection? So, Rosemary, this is your area completely. So go for it.
I have some ideas, but I guess the theme here is that it's not about pressure. And I can definitely empathize with the feeling of needing time alone. It's just time to go back to base. So it's different for different people. If you can build it in every day, it overwhelms you if it builds up over a period of time. But so I think one of the ways, especially when you're not too sure or confidence is kind of low, is to just have something that you say, I'm going to try or I'm going to do. So I'm going to talk about two things that are in that space of no pressure, just be yourself, bring yourself. And they would have come about from a need for connection and a wish to support connection. So one is a little bit similar to Coffee and Connection. It's the peer-led wellness cafe, and that's a national thing. Actually, they would have begun in Donegal. So any Monday in Glore, Ennis, where there's a new library and there's a theatre and art space there. There's a lovely cafe. There is a group of people who got together just about this time last year, with the idea that we wanted to have a space where people can connect, and it can be lots of different things, but it's very basic. It's a no pressure social connection. And so 10:30 to 12, there is in the background support for mental health service because of, you know, the connection to mental health. It's really about people wanting to support their mental health, and everyone involved has an understanding or their own experience. So our peer development group we launched last October, and in the meantime, there have been so many things have sprung out of it. I said it's simple, come along, have a cup of tea or coffee and chat. So most recent thing there was people said they'd like to add walks. So we got some Healthy Clare funding to have guided walks. So that's been lovely. It's just one of those things, if you said, look, on a Monday at 10:30, I can drop in and there's no expectation, and just bring yourself is what happens there. And you'll meet some nice people, a lovely way to start the week. And the other ones, we mentioned singing and the being able to carry a tune as opposed to being a top performer. We have another group, so that's in Ennis. In Limerick, the Chimers group has been going a long time now, and it's a group that sings together, but the purpose is for mental health benefits. So there would be no audition, and you must enjoy singing, but again, there's real benefits demonstrated by singing, which are the vagus nerve is actually stimulated, maybe to do with the breathing. So a lovely lady called Sara de Pazo from Spain is the facilitator. And this, again, it's a group. There's no expectation. We have a variety of songs, and the songs are suggested by people in the group. A lovely thing about that group is that people can have a cup of tea or coffee. We get into the singing, and the group has done visits to different mental health sites because we're really interested. And as I said, everyone has their own experience with that. And so that is a drop-in as well on a Monday, 5:30 to 6:30, or come from 5 for a cup of tea in St. Joseph's. And the nicest thing there has been some of the places we've gone to sing. Like we actually did a visit into 5B, and really nice people. Probably the highlight event, where we met with staff and people that are there, and you know, just singing together. It's as simple as that, but it's very enjoyable. There's always a laugh, and the crack is always good with it. And I'd encourage people to give something like that a go. And maybe you're not in Limerick, maybe there's a singing group elsewhere that you could go to, but that's a one where it's, again, be yourself, just drop in, try it out. And the purpose is not the performance level singing, although we have some nice songs on the go, but it's to just connect with others and enjoy a shared activity.
And I suppose they're great in terms of, obviously, Ennis and Limerick is covered there. If I'd ask the panelists either to share, you know, open your mic and share anything locally that you find would be similar. And it doesn't have to be a mental health activity, although again, I'd recommend Shine, Grow, if there are groups there specifically in terms of connecting around mental health issues. But and also I'd wave a flag for recovery education as well. We run our workshops online. There's lots of people who, for all sorts of reasons, wouldn't be able to make it to our face-to-face workshops. So it's really important for us, as we always say, multiple learning pathways. A fancy way of saying we like to meet people where they're at and give them a sense of, there is a sense of community that comes from those workshops. And I have to say, it's down to, and I would say, brilliant facilitation of our facilitators. Laura, I know you want to come in there. So is there something locally there in Clare that you'd like to share?
So in Ennis, in Maria Sumter Hall, over by the cathedral, there's Grow have support groups on a Monday and Tuesday. I'm just looking here. Yeah, Monday and Tuesday, a Monday evening and a Tuesday morning. So I've been to Maria Sumter Hall. It's a lovely big space. Yeah, so Grow have kind of nationwide, don't they? Support groups. So that's the Ennis one. And I think it's amazing that they have it twice a week, you know, Monday and Tuesdays. So yeah.
Just goes to show the need, Laura, if they're developing it. I'm going to come to, there's some comments there that I'd like to share with people, and I hope I do them justice. But in the meantime, if anybody, and I'll come to you, Mike, next on that, but if there's anything that comes to mind, the chat is closed to participants, but definitely panelists, you can put it into the chat function there, either websites or anything where you feel that people can have those connections. So Mike, I'll come to you in a moment. So first ones is, and it probably covers everything we've discussed over the last 10 minutes or so, examples from one's experience can play an active role in sharing the learning, which is basically the whole thing of lived experience and what we do in our workshops as well. So thank you for sharing that. The space you are in is a slice of reality. Recognizing this allows you to honestly share. Developing a support network where empathy and trust, there's that word again that Noelle brought up, trust, are shared and built, they can assist with combating what may appear and seem real obstacles, impediments to growing and progressing toward a more positive scenario in your daily experiences. Absolutely. Prevention is better than cure, isn't it always? If we can get the help we need when we need it. Support for new mothers, family, not great now with worldwide economic support for families to encourage mothers, fathers to be with their kids in the important formative years. This will or could ensure healthy, confident kids for the future. That continues to be an issue, absolutely. Particularly, I know when I was growing up, it was a very different time. You had a parent there. It's not feasible for lots of people because to go out and pay double mortgages. So that is really, really important. What's great is I give a shout out, Clare Care, brilliant organisation in County Clare. We're partnering with them in September to deliver a series of 3 self-care workshops for parents, and check that out. If you are in Clare, it's available on the Clare Care website to book. The booking details are there. So we are trying that. And again, we've got our perinatal selfcare.ie is the web page with all of our resources for women in that either antenatal or in that first year of their child's life, to support them in their self-care. So I think the final one, health and wellness 6-week workshop, was brilliant. Oh, great example here. Face-to-face sharing and learning, some exercise, breathing, a bit of meditation, which we love, mindfulness with facilitators, I think, and living a healthy life with chronic conditions, all assisted by able facilitators. Absolutely. If you're dealing with a chronic condition, chronic pain is another one. Very, very difficult. We often find actually within our workshops, we have people who, maybe homebound because of chronic illness. That does come up quite a lot. So it's great that we can have those discussions and have those workshops so those people can attend. Anne-Marie, thank you so much. Got a nice shout out there from Anne-Marie for ARIES. Would highly recommend ARIES workshops. I've done many online and attended workshops and have come away from them all feeling great. Oh, thanks, Anne-Marie. Thank you so much. And I'm glad the facilitators are here to hear that because, as I said, I think they do a great job. Mike, I'll come to you.
Yeah, and this is just, I suppose, something that Laura touched on there, and it's kind of looking at, like, you'll know when a connection is healthy because there's no pressure, and if you're connecting with something or some activity that you're doing and you're feeling under pressure, bring it back to the feelings. Well, then it's not working, and like everybody in this group here and most people who know me, and this is where sometimes you can be misled by a name of something and you think that it means what it says. Because everybody here knows I'm not on social media and I never was. And the simple reason is people are misled by the word social. Social media, because I'm still at a loss. I wouldn't describe myself as the brightest star or the sharpest knife in the drawer, but I cannot figure out what is social about social media. And like, so if something is a chore, why would you be bothered? It just makes no sense whatsoever. And I suppose so to move on slightly in that, like, there's lots of ways. So what's real then and what's not real? Everybody that's probably on this here and everybody in the world, or everybody in Ireland or in the Midwest, there is shops and community centres and different organisations that have premises, and most of them have what's called a notice board. And on that notice board is stuff to do. Yeah, and at least then, if you're looking there, you might have a chance of finding something. Whereas if you're trawling the dregs of social media, like what's real and what's not real, and what need is it meeting, and I suppose, and I'm going to move slightly ahead here now. And so when we look at connection and disconnection, and I'm going to move on to I suppose, that little bit of what can you do or how would you know? And sometimes if you can't see it for yourself, if you have fortunate enough to have somebody who knows you reasonably well, a friend or a family member or a partner or a loved one, who knows you well, and I suppose it's what we kind of trade called the spotter. And and if that that you have a conversation with this person you're close to when you are well, and to give them permission to contact you, or speak to you, that if they see you sliding into disconnection from the people around you, the things that you enjoyed, and you're drifting from your loved one. Because when the person is drifting and slipping away and disconnecting, they can't, it's very difficult to be aware of it and see it until you're in the depths of it. So at least that person now has permission to speak to you. That, like, if it was me, for instance, and I'm going the downward spiral, and all I need is somebody to say, Mike, remember when we had this conversation and you said I could be your spotter? We've reached that point now, you need to do something, and then walk away. And that's all it takes. So it's, where does the intervention come for us to change our thinking, or to be aware of? Because if you're not aware, I think it comes back to like what Laura and Sylvia said at the start, be in tune with yourself. If you're not in tune with yourself, well, then you can't be in tune with anybody else, so that's where it starts. And I know I've said quite a bit there, but again, if anyone can put it into the Q&A, what's social about social media, I'd love to hear it.
Mike, we always have this conversation with you. Taking down one social media platform at a time. Fair play to you. Sylvia, I'll come to you in a second. I do actually want to, I'm looking at the time there and we've got very little left, and I do want to come to this final question, but I just direct people, if they can, there's some fantastic resources and websites and organizations shared there in the chat. So if you are in that position that you're looking, and that you can, some people can't get out for all sorts of reasons, that you can see what's available there. I do want to go to a final question, and then I will share some signposting slides at the end. But if someone is experiencing social anxiety, now we see that, and it's great having all of those options there, but you might be looking at that list and going, Jesus, I can't actually go down to the shops. Okay. Is there one piece of advice, one little piece of gentle advice you could give them to start that conversation? Now, what I think is brilliant is there may be people attending today who are in that position. And that's where online is really helpful, that we can have those connections here, and we find that all the time in our workshops. But Sylvia, I know you probably wanted to come in on a point, but I'm going to come to you on this question. But if there's something you want to add to it, if it speaks to it, just very little time left.
Yeah, no, I'll come to this question, Margaret. And like you're saying, there can be that anxiety with going out the door. So even just maybe a consistent check-in, like Mike is saying, with someone you trust, just a daily check-in, and that kind of will build, I think it'll build that rhythm, of care, and connection, something small like that.
Brilliant, Sylvia. Thanks. That was brief, but really to the point and really meaningful. And actually, I just want to come in. This is lovely. For anonymous attendee, I found out about Mid West Areas and a notice board, and I'm delighted that I did. And we're delighted that you did. And that's you never know where you're going to find stuff. Libraries, great for doing that if you can get out. Rosemary, the person who's really struggling.
Yeah, I think just an acceptance that it is hard to step out, anything new or for the first time. So it is a hurdle. So you can acknowledge that, and a little bit of support or encouragement. It's just at that start and getting over inertia or trying to rebuild or whatever stage you're at, that you could need a bit of support. Trusted person like Sylvia and Mike would have said, are also just being kind to yourself to say this is hard, but that it will get better. You always feel good. It's like going out for a walk. It's hard to go out. Once you started, you're happy and you feel good after the walk. So it's whatever bit of encouragement to get started. I think that's the thing to aim for.
Brilliant, Rosemary. Absolutely. And being kind to yourself with it, and being a little bit brave too, which is often really difficult. But again, Sylvia, I know you shared in the chat there the social prescribing network. Again, that would give you supports around that, and maybe finding those elements of joy, but with acknowledgement that, it is difficult. So I'd encourage you to have a look at that. Noelle, I'll come to you again with that final question. So for that person.
Yeah, the first thing I had in my head was like, building connections is hard, and so be gentle to yourself. But I think to start with yourself, be comfortable with yourself, because you're struggling. So be comfortable with yourself, enjoy your own company, because that is really, really important. Most people don't give themselves time to enjoy their own company. Once you do that, you start to learn more about you and what you need, and then you might venture out to like, oh well, I actually enjoyed that, or I'd like to get to know more about that because that's what I really know I like. But sometimes we just go to things. It mightn't necessarily be, we mightn't have put the thought of ourselves in that. So for me, it's get comfortable with yourself, enjoy your own company because you're an amazing person. Every one of us is amazing, and then start from there.
Thanks, Noah. That's lovely. And valuing yourself. I love that. Laura.
So I think just reaching out. Maybe if you have family resource centres are fantastic. If you have one of those in your area, or even your library or local library, our local post office always has, and our Super Value actually always have a big wall of stuff going on, a wall of things going on. You'd be there for ages just looking, and just take that small step. And as Noelle said, go easy on yourself. That self-compassion. Come in there with that self-compassion. And if you try something and you don't like it, it doesn't work for you, try again. But go easy on yourself. But definitely, I'd say reach out in some form.
And I love that. Just go easy on yourself. And actually, I think that's on one of our annual reports. Somebody said that in terms of the feedback from an acute unit, said that I've learned to go easy on myself. I love that. Mike, I think you're the final one. Have I got everybody now? And then I'll just quickly share the slides.
And I think as well, we're in the personal space here, in the personal recovery and personal connection. And I suppose just to note that, social anxiety social anxiety is a disorder. It is in the diagnostic manual. But if somebody, is really struggling, and totally isolated, you know, always reach out to your GP. They're the gatekeeper for the services, you know. So and this is, it is serious, you know. So, and I think that that's it really, you know. Just and as Laura said, ask for that help, you know. So it's yeah, it'll be worth it if you do. Yeah.
Brilliant. And thanks, Mike. That's a lovely kind of bit to finish on. Not quite finished yet. If you can stay for a couple of minutes, I just want to share some signposting from ourselves, just to see what's coming up. Obviously, given the fact that we have holiday and our brilliant facilitators do need to get some time off. Now, I hope this is it's having a moment here. Just bear with me for a moment, and I'll reshare that. I think if Mike, if you want to share, there's a Q&A there. I think somebody from Scottish Recovery College was on, found us on Eventbrite. So delighted to have you here. Now, just bear with me. Can you see that there?
Yeah.
Yeah, sorry. I think I lost connection there for a moment. So thanks for staying. Yeah, basically join us next. We looked at connection today, and I hope you agreed. It was a really lovely, insightful, relaxing, but hopeful conversation. Next August, I think it's the 27th, we will be looking at hope and having hope in mental health recovery, why it's important and what we can do to have hope, especially when we're not feeling great. If you're looking to do things in your own time from home, we've lots of self-paced resources available there. We've got the Introducing Occupational Therapy for Mental Health Recovery. It's a lovely guide. And if you're considering, maybe I need a little bit of support on that, it's a great way to get some understanding about that before you approach to your mental health team. We've also got Understanding Acute Mental Health Services for Families, Carers and Supporters, which takes you through both 5B and ENIS and shows you the people behind there and the staff and the great work that goes on in terms of personal recovery. And as I've already mentioned, we do have our perinatal self-care resources, including an audiobook on perinatal self-care, all available the way from midwestaries.ie. This is important. Our last one in May, our last webinar, we looked at the new research that came out on experiences of parenting while living with mental health challenges. Really great piece of research. And if you're in that position, I think it's really worthwhile a read. Again, you can download it and read from our family recovery page on midwestaries.ie. This is something, again, another partner with ourselves, UL. We are part of the HSE. I didn't mention that before, but UL Psychology, and this is around co-producing safety plan resources for young people. Okay, so it's a national survey, and it's all about, as Mike said, almost it's the preemptive stuff. When you're in a good place, making a plan for when you're not. So that's effectively what it is. It's a step-by-step guide that helps someone cope during a crisis. So they're looking for people to take part. It's been brilliant. We've got a lot of staff, which is fantastic, but we need more young people to get involved. It is all about them, and also friends and family members who've helped a young person maybe who has had an emotional crisis. So again, that's available on our website or on the QR code there. You will get a copy of these slides anyway if you've attended today. And then finally, just a shout out for Midwest ARIES. It has everything on there in terms of how to book, but also if you want to understand what recovery education is or what personal recovery is and so on, it has all the information there. And that is our details there. So yeah, I just want to check if there's anyone. Thank you, Anne-Marie. That Anne-Marie's just said thank you for a great webinar. It's great to have you, Anne-Marie, here today. I just want to say a round of goodbyes, but also before goodbyes, just to say thank you for all of you who came today. You've been absolutely brilliant, and for sharing your insights into this idea of connection. Micah has a great saying, and it's so true. It's these things sound simple, but they're not. It's a great idea, but how do you actually implement it? So I'll just so thanks for your attention today. I'll just pass you through to Mike and then through the panelists just to say their goodbye. So Mike, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, yeah, thanks to be here again. Love it. Well done to you, Margaret. Stalwart as well on these. And yeah, yeah, an interesting conversation. As I said, they're always good, healthy, strong conversations, and hopefully people can take, a few learnings from it today. Thanks, Margaret.
And thanks, Mike. Thanks to you for all the support today. Sylvia, if you want to say your goodbyes.
Yeah, thanks everyone for coming, and a lovely workshop today, starting off with connections. So looking forward to the next one, and hope. Thanks, Margaret.
Thanks, Sylvia. So am I. Hope's a tricky one, as they all are. Laura, you want to say goodbye?
Thank you so much. It was a great conversation, and a conversation that kind of had to be had, I think. I think it's nice to talk about a connection, and yeah, really enjoyable. Thank you.
And Noelle, if you want to say goodbye there. Sorry, I'm just checking if there's anything else been said that I've missed. So thanks, Noelle.
Yeah, just thanks everyone for coming on the webinar, and thanks to Panel and Margaret. You always do a lovely job, and just a nice conversation. Sometimes it's nice just to have the everyday conversations of things that, because connection is we're connected to everything everywhere. So just remember that you are always connected, even when you feel you're not.
And thanks, Noelle. And Rosemary, and just before I go to Rosemary, thank you to Sylvia for putting in the feedback form. We live or die by our feedback, good or bad. Please, if you have a moment, it only takes a couple of minutes. We'd really appreciate if you could fill that out, just in terms of your experience today, and crucially how we can experience them. So thanks, Sylvia, for that. Rosemary, your goodbyes.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks, Margaret. It's always interesting with the webinars. You hear ideas from other people, and also from the comments that were put in there. So on the links that were shared, I think the activity part is always where I like to connect. So sports partnership is flagged up there. But yeah, it's really nice. It's ideas for people, and I hope there's something for people to take away. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Rosemary. It's lovely to have you on, and lovely to you know what, I love these conversations because they're just real, and that's all we can do. We're not telling, it's not prescriptive, it's very kind of discursive based, so we love having them. Look, hope to see you again next month. Thanks for sticking with stay. I know we went slightly over, and have a great day, and whatever you do, as be kind to yourself, as Laura said. Give yourself a break. We're too hard on ourselves most of the time, and yeah, I just do want to make a special thanks to Mike for supporting me today. I really appreciate that. Take care, and hope to see you next month. Bye.